And welcome everybody to Stoicon 2022. Hopefully everybody, I see all these people logging in from all over the world, which is very cool to see. We're going to have John Sellars in just a moment, talking a bit about how this is the 10th year of Stoicon, also of Stoic Week, also of some other Stoic related things. So we're very glad to have everybody here. I'm going to introduce some of the other people that have been involved in organizing this and making it all work. So I don't know if they want to come up right away or here we go. So there's John. He was going to talk in just a few minutes, but Andi and Phil, and I should also mention Harald has been heavily involved in this. So you see Andi Sciacca there. She is not actually in Switzerland. She is actually downstairs from me at this moment, but nor am I in front of a stoa, nor is John in. Where is that, John?
Florence.
There you go. So Harald is actually where he looks like he is. So let me introduce these people and Phil as well. Andi Sciacca is one of the co-organizers of this year's and last year's Stoicon. She is one of the members of the Modern Stoicism team, as is everybody else that you see in front of you as well. Harald is one of the co-organizers as well and assistant editor of Stoicism Today for the moment until I step down and he takes over as the full editor. And he's going to be coordinating, well, not just the lightning talks, but also one of the panels. We have Phil Yanov behind the scenes for all of this, making sure that the software actually operates properly, and you can see looking at the YouTube thing that the most difficult or most problematic linkage has taken place. So we're looks like we got smooth sailing ahead. Although if things go wrong, I'm sure we'll know how to deal with it. And then we have John Sellars, who's going to be speaking momentarily about what it means. John is somebody who was here from the beginning. All of the rest of us on this team have joined later on. So some people are just streaming in. I see we have more and more participants. So before we bring John on, let me just say one more time, welcome to Stoicon 2022. We have a really great lineup of speakers and panelists. We actually took a few cues from some of the Stoicon-x's. I'll mention that the book panel idea, Harald and I basically lifted from the Australians who do things like that, and hopefully that'll be quite good. We have another panel on Stoicism around the world coming up fairly soon. 3 talks, then a plenary speech. We have lightning talks, and we also have a workshop. So lots of stuff throughout the day, and then sort of like those parties where there's a question mark about when it ends. We're going to finish up for those who aren't totally stoic out with what would you call it, like a after party, hangout, chit chat, that sort of thing. So all that said, I want to introduce John Sellars. There's a lot that I could say about him, but I'm going to keep it very brief. I've interacted with him a number of times. He's a great person, as well as a scholar whose work is quite inspiring. He is one of the founding members of Modern Stoicism and has exercised a very important leadership and steering role throughout its time. He is the author of too many books and articles to possibly list, but I will mention that recently he's published, not just in Stoicism, he published The Fourfold Remedy, Epicurus and the Art of Happiness, which of course is about the Epicurean tradition, Marcus Aurelius, Lessons in Stoicism. His publications go back several decades. And I actually use his own stuff in some of my classes when I'm teaching. So anything else you want me to say about you, John, before you come on and tell us about 10 years in?
That's more than enough already.
All right, I'm going to go on mute and turn it over to you, John, for a bit.
Thank you very much, Greg, and thanks also to Andy and Phil for all their work. I'm now just going to share my screen, and I hope you can see this.
Works
So
great.
I'm going to just talk through a bit. This is our 10th Stoicon. So I'm just going to say a bit about the kind of the history of Stoicon, how it all started. Our very first event, you can see the poster here that we created for our first event, which was called Stoicism for Everyday Life, which took place in London in 2013. This was our very first session. We were a statue of Gandhi, I think it is, who's in the square just around the corner, for the little film that we made about the event. We put together this thing. We had no idea if anyone was going to turn up. We had no idea if there was going to be any interest in this. We really didn't have a sense of whether there would be an audience. And fortunately, there was. We had a lecture theatre that could hold about 200 people, and we more or less filled it. That was our very first attempt to present these Stoic ideas to a much wider audience. And because it worked, we decided to do it again the following year. We had another event, this time in a different location in London, run by Jules Evans, and a second event in London the following year. And in that next event in London, we invited a couple of people from the United States to come over and talk to us. One of them was William Irving, who I'm sure many of you have heard of, who wrote that very nice book about Stoicism as a guide to a good life. And another person we invited over was some young upstart from New York who started writing blog pieces about Stoicism. His name was Massimo Pigliucci. He'd followed Stoic Week, thought it was quite interesting. And so we thought, who is this guy? He sounds interesting. We'll invite him over. And we did. And we managed to persuade him to host Stoicon in New York the following year. And that was us going global, or as we thought at the time. So we were very pleased to move to New York and have another in-person event there. The following year, we went on to, this is very dark and gloomy Toronto. Lurking in the shadows in the corner at the front there is Donald Robertson talking about Stoicism in Toronto. Donald had moved there, so he hosted that event. And there was a thriving community of Stoics in Toronto at the time, and I believe there still is. So we managed to, as all British bands like to, crack the North American scene and have a couple of successful events there. The year after, we came back to London in 2018. So I'd organised that very first event in 2013. And then after a few years break, I organised an event in 2018 back in central London. Fantastic. For those of you who weren't there, but you can see a short video about this on our YouTube channel. Fantastic sculpture that someone made for the event with this quotations from Epictetus on it, challenging our ideas about perception. And we had a particularly large audience there, a huge room. We had about 300 people or so. And so a really big event. And that was the first time I met Greg. We managed to get Greg to come over to London, and that was a particularly great event. The following year, 2019, we went to Athens and were hosted by the American School in Athens and had a particularly great event then, managed to go and visit the site of the Stoa and see many other things. It was absolutely wonderful, but unfortunately it was the last Stoicon that we did in person because of course, then the pandemic hit. And so the following year, we decided to take it online for the first time, and it remained online the year after. And of course, today is our third incarnation online. And in some ways, that's a bit of a shame, I think, because there's lots that you lose compared to an in-person event. But there are also many gains. And one of the gains is that we can reach a much wider audience. And so although we naively thought when we managed to escape London and go to New York that we were suddenly going global, of course we weren't really at all. But now that our events are online, we really are global, and we can welcome an audience like you from people all over the world, and people that wouldn't be able to travel to an event in a particular big city like Toronto or New York or London can now access and be part of our Stoic community. So we're very pleased to be able to host these online events. Very pleased to Greg and Andi, who have managed this one and last year's as well. It enables us to really open up our Stoic community. Lastly, for those of you that might be curious, you can access videos for the vast majority of these events, both the events that are online and the physical events, on our YouTube channel. And some of you I know will be watching this through YouTube already, so you have very easy access to that. So we've got 10 years of content now that we've produced, dozens and dozens of talks about Stoicism on a wide range of topics. And hopefully we will have even more to gather by the end of today. So I'll stop there and pass you back to Greg.
All right. Well, thanks for that, John. That was a great summary of 10 years worth of stuff. And as John was saying, we do have a lot of this recorded and available for you if you want to go back to previous Stoicons on the Modern Stoicism YouTube channel in organized fashion with playlists and all of that. It was really something quite awesome to be there for some of these Stoicons around the world, in New York, Toronto, London. And John is right that we do miss something. We can't all be in the same room together, but we have the chat and we have all sorts of other great things. And this has made Stoicon accessible in a way. I mean, there are still some time zone issues, various parts of the world, but almost everybody can easily join in for at least part of it. We've got more people signed up this year than previous years, so it keeps on growing, and that's kind of a good thing. I will say one other thing too before I turn things over to Phil for a little bit of how to do things discussion here. Well, actually, why don't I just do that, and then I can tell you the funny thing before Piotr comes on about the feedback from last year. There was one thing that people didn't like, and I'll put that on hold for a moment and turn it over to Phil to talk about chat, the Zoom, any of the technical things that people might want to know about.
Well, you know, Greg, the way that they came to you, meet you, and then you get pulled into the fold, I got pulled into the fold because we wanted to do this thing electronically. And listen, it would have been Massimo and Donald would have been your technical directors. Probably not the right choice. There's a lot of things those cats can do. Run a Zoom call might not have been the thing. So that's how I got into this bit and excited to be. This is my third year running Stoicon, and we've run several other events as well, but third year of running Stoicon. And I'm super happy to be here and be part of it and to support what we've got going on. So a couple of things just on my side, just for a minute or so. We got you in the chat early on. You know, there is a chat here, and we'd love for you to use it. And when we say we'd love for you to use it, we'd love for you to be nice Stoics to each other. Be good people, support the speakers, cheer them on. You know, they're giving their time and their effort and all of that stuff. And they're good people, and we know you're good people. So we want to use the chat to encourage them. And let's just figure out if we can do that. So if you're with me on let's being supportive of the speakers, just type yes into the chat. Just type the word yes into the chat. That lets me know that you can see me, you can hear me, and you're saying, you know what, I'm here to have a great time and be nice to everybody. So that's what we're going to do. So the thing we're going to ask you on the chat is to kind of, again, be supportive of the person who's speaking, you know, put links in there if you've got to put links in there, but you know, let's try not to drag it off onto some other topic while someone's talking. Let's be respectful of the speaker. Let's pretend we're all in the same room helping each other out, because I know that's what we want to do. I think that's the thing on my side. If you need, let me see, if you can't see, you can't hear, you're having some trouble, you can reach out to me, obviously, in the private chat inside here, and we'll see if I can help you. But my job is to make sure that you can see and hear and have a great day. And by the way, if people are going to go into this chat and they're going to say, Phil, or Greg, or Andy, or Harold, are there going to be recordings available? Yes, there are going to be recordings. You are empowered. You've been deputized by me and Greg to take, when anyone asks a question, you just say, yes, you'll get it. Yes, you'll get it. Because you are going to get it. All right. You're set? It's all you, Greg. You got it.
Awesome. So I will say this, Phil somewhat underplayed. He said that he did a few other conferences. He has been the back end tech person for a lot of Stoicon-x things. I don't know how many throughout the years, but it's not just a few. I'm
just going to tell you, there's all of these that we've done, and in addition, I've done over 150 other of these Zoom events. So I'd like to think I got some traction in this.
Well, we should mention too, Phil, you've also got Tech After 5 that you do. Do you want to?
I don't want to plug it, but if you listen, just go find my name somewhere. If you'd ever, I can't imagine why you would ever want to be closer to Phil Yanov. But if you'd like to be closer, just Google my name and you'll find our stuff, and you can come and hang out at one of our live events and see what we do. But thank you, Greg. I appreciate that.
So I mentioned that I was going to say what the #1 complaint after the last Stoicon was, and it wasn't, oh, the speakers are no good, you know, they didn't cover this or anything like that. It was the breaks were not long enough. And, you know, breaks for going to the bathroom, getting yourself a sandwich, whatever it happens to be. And, you know, we said, well, it's a live event. I mean, how long do the breaks need to be? Anybody can walk away at any time that they want to. And people were so glued to the conference that they didn't want to take bio breaks. So we built in some longer breaks in the course of this. We're going to jump right into our first talk of the day without a break because, you know, it's only been a few minutes. You probably don't need that yet. But then in between most of the things, we have 10-minute breaks so people are able to do whatever they need to do and come back, and we can do things in kind of a leisurely manner. So I think that should be quite good.